Living is planting seeds that will grow in your life, planting seeds that inspire other people, planting beauty and planting life and planting light in other people. It's saying that I'm responsible because you're my brother. Because you're my brother, you are a part of my family, my body.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Helping with Dr. Richard Schuster. Food for the brain, knowledge from the experts, tools to win at life. I'm your host, Dr. Richard. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, and whatever you do, this is the show that is going to help you become the best version of yourself. Each episode, you will hear from some of the most amazing, talented, and successful people on the planet who followed their passions and strive to help others. Join our movement to get 1 million people each day to commit acts of kindness for others. Together, we're going to make the world a better place. Are you ready? Because it's time for your Daily Helping. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Daily Helping podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Richard, and I am so honored to bring our guest to you today. She is amazing. Her name is Maimah Karmo. She is the founder and CEO of the Tigerlily Foundation and a 15-year survivor of breast cancer, which we're going to talk about. She has appeared in USA Today, U.S. News and World Report, Cosmopolitan, CBS, the Oprah Winfrey Show, Good Morning America, the Today Show, and more. She's a sought-after speaker by the media and for policy events. She's also a philanthropist. Under her leadership, the Tigerlily Foundation has launched national and global health initiatives focused on ending disparities through the #Inclusion Pledge, participating with global stakeholders with a call to action to recognize health disparities as a social justice issue and working to end disparities for Black women in our lifetime. She's a global health advocate committed to justice and equity for all. Maimah, welcome to the Daily Helping. It is awesome to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Richard. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, there's so many amazing things you're doing, and I can't wait to share all of them with our audience today. But what I want to do, I love doing this because people have such powerful stories which shape them and shape how they're impacting the world. I want to go back in time. Tell us your journey. Tell us what put you on the path you're on today with Tigerlily.
Wow. Well, it's been a journey, to be honest. So I'm from Liberia, West Africa. That's where I was born and raised till I was 15 years old. Within that 15 years of time, I experienced 3 wars in Liberia. My parents and I had to escape twice. Twice before. And the last time we escaped, we didn't return. They believe very much in philanthropy and giving back to others. And so whenever we left, they would always go back when the war stopped. And I'm like, why are you going back? And he said, well, there are other people that don't get to have what we have, which is access to a plane ticket and money to afford tickets to leave and to escape and be okay. And the infrastructure needs to be rebuilt and so forth. So they really infused in me a sense of commitment to others and service to others. My mother also, during one of the wars, rescued my father from a barracks, a prison. And she just showed me the importance of sacrificing for the ones that you love. And so when the last war happened, my dad put me on a plane. He can only afford one ticket, and he chose me. Imagine being 15 years old, and then you're in school painting a mural, and you're graduating in a few months from high school. You're excited about life. You've been accepted into a couple colleges in the States that you've come to visited. You've been a straight student, valedictorian. You work really hard, and everything you work for is right there as a teenager. And then one day you hear, a lot of noise, and there's an alarm, and all the kids are put into the gym, and then you're told that there are rebels coming to town. You have to graduate a few days, and then everyone's getting airlifted. And back then there was no, internet, cell phones, all these things, Facebook and nothing like that. And so all your friends are just airlifted on planes. Many of my friends, I went to an international school, so many were diplomats' kids. And my father was a businessman. And anyway, these tickets were scarce to find. And so he chose me. And I was like, well, are you coming as well? He said, well, I only have one ticket. And that was me. And so I came to the States. I was alone for a while. At some point, my family came, but imagine a time span where there's nobody, that you love with you. My dad gave me that ticket. He said to me, this ticket is your way out of the country. You're going to go to America and start a new life. And I pray that we'll join you. But it's very symbolic for me, that he was giving me this ticket. There's war all around. And he's telling me that he's choosing me to be the one to leave. My mom is a nurse and told me the importance of breast exams when I was 13. So they were both doing things that were very parallel that transformed my life. She was very involved in healthcare. She traveled a lot with the UN all over the world. And one day she came home and she said, hey, let's go in your room and have a seat. And made me take off my shirt and do a breast self-examination. Now imagine you're 13 and you barely have breasts. It's the women who are listening. It's embarrassing as hell. It's so embarrassing. But she said, your body will change. Don't be embarrassed to know what it looks like and feels like. As it does change, if you do these breast exams early and often, you'll know when there's something that doesn't belong in your breast. I'm like, I don't want breasts. I don't want all these things. People are looking at them, at boys. I don't like this at all. Long story short, 18 years later, doing a breast exam in the shower, there was a lump in my breast. Never had there been a lump before. My mom's words came back to me. I remember asking her, well, if something bad comes in or pops up, how will I know? And her answer was, you'll know. And I knew. And so I was 31 years old. She also impressed upon me the importance of having a very healthy provider relationship. So my doctor, my OBGYN and I were great friends. So I went to her and she said a really important question. She said, what are we going to do about this? And, when you talk about health disparities, a lot of times doctors don't ask patients questions. They tell them, and they don't ask them, what are we going to do? It's more like, okay, here's what I think we need to do, or I need to do for you. You're doing this, it's prescribed treatment versus a co-creational relational situation. So got a mammogram. At the time, women weren't getting mammograms under 40, I believe, or 45. But she advocated for me to get the mammogram, which I paid for out of pocket because it wasn't covered by insurance. And then I saw a surgeon who told me that I was too young to have breast cancer, to come back when I was in my 40s. And I said, no, I'm not doing that because this lump was not there a month ago and it's big. It's quite sizable that I can feel it. And we argued. I got an aspiration. The lump wasn't aspirating. So I said, I'm not a rocket scientist, but if it was a cyst, it would aspirate. It's not. So it can't be a cyst. And I was very young, right? I was in my 31 years old. So I kept bugging her for a biopsy. She wouldn't do it. And over that 6 months of me calling the office and calling the office and, bugging them for a biopsy, trying to get one. My lump kept growing. I began having fatigue, having night sweats, and I was like, something's wrong with me. So I persisted, and finally I did get the biopsy. And it turns out that it was stage 2B breast cancer. It was triple negative breast cancer, which at the time, up until 2 to 3 years ago, there was no targeted treatment for that. So imagine someone doing all the right things, self-advocating, and you go to one of the best doctors in the tri-state area in DC, in the nation's capital, and you're dismissed and denied access to the right test, and which resulted in me having a sizable, bigger tumor. And so it just struck me that if I had taken her advice and waited till I was 45, which I've already passed in age, I would have been dead years ago. And so I was stunned, shocked. My first thought was my daughter, Noelle. I thought, what if I don't make it? What will happen to her? Triple negative breast cancer is the most aggressive breast cancer that is out there. And again, no targeted treatment. So I was between a rock and a hard place. And I believe that in those places is where you're born, right? When you're pressed, what happens when you're pressed? As Wayne Dyer says, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out? It's what's inside. And when I first heard that quote, I said, what a freaking stupid quote. What do you mean what's inside? But when you're squeezed, what comes out is what's inside of you. And so I was in a position where I'm in my the peak of my life. And I've done the right things. When the war happened, I began to volunteer, give back. I worked hard, helped my family. I was the first to get a job. They didn't have the papers to get jobs. So I had 3 jobs at 16 and helped pay the rent and buy a car and feed my brothers and cook for them. And I was their mom. My parents were still struggling to make ends meet. So did all these right things. And then here I am now at 31 thinking I'm about to begin living the American dream, but maybe I'm about to die from cancer that I could have detected earlier. So that is where Tigerlily was born. it was this sense of like, God, if I survive this disease, if I survive this disease, I can't ask you to give me life, because people die that should not die. But what I can ask you is, if I survive, I'll give my life in service to others who are at, who are facing health disparities, meaning women who are younger, who are dismissed, women who are metastatic, who are delayed, like I was, and I could have been metastatic, women who are of color, because Black women die at a 40% higher rate than women who are non-Black. And so it just became my sole purpose. God renewed my spirit in treatment. And that's kind of where this flower called Tigerlily began to emerge and blossom and grow.
Hey guys, Dr. Richard here. For the past 7 years, I've been privileged to bring you incredible guests who are changing the world and can help you become the best version of yourself. I'm really excited to share with you a new quiz that I created based on my clinical training that will curate for you a custom list of my top episodes and actionable strategies to help you wherever you are on your journey. All you need to do is go to drrichardschuster.com to take it, and it's 100% free. You'll be taking the next step on the journey to unlocking the power of you, and I can't wait to see where you'll go. There's so much to unpack, and we kind of transitioned rapidly from, escaping the rebels in Liberia to your breast cancer story. And they're both important and they're both powerful. So I don't want to do either injustice. So I want to jump back to when you left. So your dad basically says to you, I can only afford one ticket. It's you. You're going to the States. That happened to you and you were 15. So how long a period of time were you by yourself? I know your parents came over eventually. How long were you by yourself?
I don't remember, to be honest. I'll tell you the truth, Dr. Richard. I had some things happen in 2019 that triggered severe panic attacks. That the panic attacks also triggered these memories that were very scary. So imagine, as you asked me, so I kind of went through those things as if it's just a story, but there's a lot that happened there, right? A part of my brain just kind of turned off. So on that 15-hour plane ride from Liberia to the States, I went from a child to an adult. I lost the future I thought I was going to have. And I forgot much of what happened the next few months. It's still in spurts. I know that the person that got on the plane in Liberia wasn't the person that got off the plane in New York. The fear of losing my family, the fear of being on this plane ride with no idea would I see them again, the fear of going to a new country without my family with me. I was a child very close to my family, and we went everywhere together, so this is my first time being without them and not knowing what's going to happen. So a lot of things happened to me on that plane ride. I had to shed the child personality and just become a woman when I landed, I had to figure out how to call my uncle in Jersey. I had to figure out how to get to my cousins in Virginia. I had to figure out, how to help out in my people's houses, because I didn't have, we didn't have a lot. I didn't have a lot. So help my aunt while she's keeping me keeping me for now, how to just kind of exist and be help her clean the house and do chores and whatever, but not knowing where my family was and if they were okay. I think that that's kind of where a large part of me was born. There are many bits and parts of me that have been that are inside of me, but that was where that came, the personality that came, that you have to survive no matter what. You have to, create in the world what you seek and what you want to manifest. And if I'm the one that my dad chose, that's a huge, huge, beautiful, that's a thing, right? I mean, for someone to say, I choose you and here's all I have and this is you or it. So there's also a responsibility that comes with that, right? So no matter what I ever encountered in life, the fact that my dad told me that, I knew that when I got diagnosed with cancer, it wasn't going to stop me,
Right.
and what that means. People say, well, how do you say that it won't stop you? I made it in the sense that whenever I leave this planet, I was going to do something about that situation that would transform how the world sees cancer and wellness and health. So the war taught me to be, and leaving my family, and I only came with one suitcase. It wasn't like, oh, pack all your belongings and your summer clothes and your whatever. It was like, pack your essentials. And I packed two books. I packed the Diary of Anne Frank and the Bible. And that was really symbolic for me, because I thought, wherever I'm going, if Anne Frank could survive in an attic for that long and be that positive and be that forward thinking, and I can do whatever is coming for me, right? And so I just say that these things make us who we are. But when I began having the panic attacks, I began to trigger memories that I'd forgotten about the war and being in hiding and soldiers shooting at my house, my parents' house, and about the plane ride, which I still can't remember the entire plane ride, or how I got from the airport to my cousin's house, the one in Virginia. I'm sorry, in Jersey, then to Virginia. So it was a horrible time for me having the panic attacks. But it took me I just stopped seeing my trauma therapist 2 months ago after 4 years. So it tells you how the mind can protect you, right? And for a child, there's so much that I've seen, like dead bodies and people you be driving and there is a body on the road and soldiers stopping you and people in tanks and stuff like that. And so a lot of fear around that and around people, around my physical health, or well-being rather, my family. But in a way, the panic attacks helped me to remember who I was. And it also, they're a way of my body saying, you're safe now. You can remember these things and unpack them and deal with them. And so that really has transformed my life in so many ways, because a lot of things that were driving me for a long time, I didn't know. It's kind of like something's driving you and you're going towards running from war or cancer. And I was just going and doing all these things that I think that were wonderful. But a part of me would get up some mornings. I get up with my heart racing. I'd have adrenal issues. I just never could feel a sense of like settlement in my body, right? And comfort. And having the panic attacks was, again, very, very terrifying. I went to the ER at least 3 or 4 times, like thought I was dying. My throat would close up and I couldn't breathe and my body wasn't calming down. And they would say, no, you're having an anxiety attack or panic attack rather. I'm like, what? I don't have panic attacks. I'm a boss. I got things under control. I have survived 3 wars. I've been hit by lightning. I'm a cancer survivor. Like, I'm fine. I got this. And after the 4th time, the ER doctor says, maybe you should see a therapist. So I went to see a therapist who said, after a few sessions, she said, Maimah, I think there's some things you're not remembering. Because you tell your story, like you asked me, you tell like it's a novel. You just talk about it like it just happened. It's no big deal. But these are very huge things. And the therapist said, you need to see a trauma specialist, which I did. I saw an EMDR specialist, and she really helped me, because at some point during the panic attack phase, I couldn't even leave my room. I couldn't leave my house. I couldn't drive a car. I would just shake and I couldn't breathe. And I would have, what's it called when you can't leave your house? Couldn't leave the house, couldn't get out of my room. I would have vertigo and I would be seeing things. I would close my eyes, it'd be really tight, and I would be like someplace else. And my daughter, who's now 19, was amazingly, she's a beautiful soul. No one knew except her for a long time. But at some point I got to her seeing the EMDR therapist. She literally saved me, because I was like thinking, I just want to die. I can't live like this. I had these attacks every day. And every day for like the first 6 weeks. And then it went to like every other day, and it became less and less. But she helped me to realize the importance of unpacking our trauma, right? And how important that is for healing. Now I'm in a much better place. And to be honest, with breast cancer, even, that's also a trauma. Any kind of cancer is a trauma or a health issue. And we don't see it as such. We address the person's physical body, but not the things that emotionally that could have been traumatic for them, and the violence of the disease to our bodies, right? So it really informed my work and the importance of focusing on healing and loving people even more deeply, and addressing the things that happen to us, but also to our minds, and how to help people to heal, mind, body, and soul as they're dealing with any kind of, health issue in their life.
There was something that you said, and all of this is powerful that you're sharing, Maimah. One thing I wrote down: survive no matter what. And so, as it relates to your cancer journey, and, to hear this, just listening to it, and they're like, nah, we're not going to biopsy you because, these are the base rates and it usually affects people at this age. And Nah, we don't think so, kiddo. Like it's astounding to me. And yet that happens every day. And you were able to advocate yourself. I mean, you wouldn't stop. You had an OB-GYN where it was a collaborative experience and you're intelligent. There are so many people, particularly those that are historically underserved, people of color, that absolutely don't have the voice or the background or the survival instincts that you did to kind of navigate all of those things. Because if you didn't have those three things, you would assuredly not be here right now. And so I commend you for your courage, for being able to stand in the face of the trauma that you experienced, because it is a trauma. When somebody says to you, you have an illness that could kill you, that's a trauma. That's it's a trauma in the same way that somebody holds a gun to your head. It still impacts the brain neurophysiologically in the identical way. It's just a different experience. So all of this came together, and as you said, this was kind of the spark for you to create Tigerlily. I would love for you to share a little bit more in depth about all the good work that Tigerlily and you, as its leader, are doing in the world right now.
I would love to. And first of all, I thank you for what you said. It's really beautiful. I think that I want to address before I talk about, so Tigerlily really was formed out of that survival no matter what, right? It's kind of like I've been through all these wars, and I say this when I speak sometimes. When I went through the wars, there were guns with soldiers around me that I had to run from, like literally physically flee from. With cancer, there's this violence inside your body that you can't see that's happening. So it's even kind of, I don't know if you say if it's worse or not, but there are these soldiers, these little cells of cancer cells trying to kill you, and you can't see them. And you don't know what they're doing, and no one's addressing the real trauma around that. Also, I feel like, so that whole, and then there's a lack of having a doctor who I was told was one of the best, who's, during the aspiration laughed at me and made fun of me and told me she had patients who were really sick who needed her attention, and I'm wasting her time, and I'm just very dismissive. And when you think about, racism in the world and in healthcare, it's funny because I never thought about racism in healthcare. I thought the doctor is somebody that is taking a Hippocratic oath to protect you. So they're going to try and keep you safe no matter what. And experiencing that dismissal in the healthcare system to the point that it could have killed me was very, very, it was very disheartening. It just made it, something in my body like switched. And so I began to think about how many women out there and girls who were younger would not be taught by their mothers to do a breast self-examination. How many moms wouldn't have pressed upon their child, did you do it this month? Did you do it this month? Until it was part of the fiber of who you are and your physical hygiene, much as you do brush your teeth and wash your face and take a shower. And, and how many girls would not have become, as an adult in their own home, continue this healthy habit? How many would have not had a doctor who they had a relationship with as an OBGYN who could advocate for them? That to the point of when the system said you can't cover her insurance, she said, Maimah, you know what? You can choose to, if you want to let this go, we can do that. But if you think that something's wrong with you, I can write you the script to get the mammogram done. And, paying for it's another issue. But, she and I had a relationship. My mom and I did too, my dad. What's more important? The mammogram didn't cost $500. I could just, I could pay it on a payment plan, or I could pay it off or whatever, or just not buy other things. But I said, whatever the cost of it, I'm going to figure this out, because I can't put this bill over my life. So people can't afford the cost of mammograms. It's just, that's their food for the week or the month. Right. So I thought, what if someone who was underserved or less, made less money, made an hourly wage, at their job, couldn't afford the mammogram, couldn't afford to go back to the doctor's office to keep asking for the biopsy or calling, or took the doctor's advice, the surgeon's advice, that it was nothing. They would have waited until they were in their 40s and presented with metastatic breast cancer, and they would die. As a matter of fact, a lot of Black women die like that. Women of all colors die like that, right? Because and who are younger, as a matter of fact, to be specific, die because they're put off. I think the number is about 18,000 now a year are diagnosed and die because many die because of the late diagnosis. 18,000 or so are diagnosed, and a number of those die. And with Black women, they have, again, a 40% higher death rate. So I kind of thought about all these things, and I said, if I just lay here and, feel angry or sad and don't do something, somebody else will die, and I will be responsible. I feel like people say to me, they always said, why do you feel responsible for other people? But there's a quote that I live by. It says, service is the rent we pay for a living. And many of us live our lives for so many years just for ourselves. We want to get through school, get into college, get the next job and the house and the car and the 401k, and then retire at 65 and a half and then die at some point. Like, that is not living. Living is planting seeds that will grow in your life, planting seeds that inspire other people, planting beauty and planting life and planting light in other people. It's saying that I'm responsible because you're my brother. Because you're my brother, you are a part of my family, my body. The Bible says that Bible says there that in the human body, each part, like we're like the church is like a body, that each one of us has a part to play up, like a body part, right? When each part works in concert, then you get to things, you work, it functions. And so I feel very much that if I didn't become a voice for other people, then someone could die because I didn't share my story, or they didn't know to get a mammogram, or pushed for the right kind of testing, or asked the right questions. And so it was more about that sense of, I can't let that happen to someone else. I just cannot do that, in consciousness that that's fair or right or just. And again, I had that instinct of surviving no matter what. And I thought everyone deserves that.
Thank you for sharing, having the courage to share your story with us, your struggles with us. This time has flown by. And as you know, Maimah, I wrap up.
Oh my God. How did time go by so fast?
It has, but we have to do what we always do on the show. And that is, I ask everybody their biggest helping. So Maimah, what is your biggest helping? That one most important thing you'd like somebody to walk away with after hearing our conversation today?
Wow. Only one thing. I don't know. I live by a lot of quotes. So there's the quote by Dan Millman, and I always say it wrong, but it says, love is a warrior's sword. Everywhere it cuts, it brings life. And that's something that I also is I think if you are here, your spirit in this body, in this vessel for this time, what are you here to do is to love yourself and others and to love life. And how do you do that? You do that by loving your temple and honoring it, feeding it with the right things. The temple isn't just your body, it's your mind and your spirit. And when you're given much, which is life is much, and you're able to breathe, then you have to give to others. And so what that means is doing whatever your privilege is. If the privilege is just breathing and thinking and being able to be out of bed, how do you ensure that other people have that same right to life and access to life and health and well-being? So I always ask people, what is your privilege, right? What is your gift? And how can you use that privilege for power to make a difference in someone else's life? And if you do that and do it every day with thoughtfulness and with grace and kindness and with vision and purpose, amazing things can happen.
Perfect. Give us the URL so people can learn more about Tigerlily.
It's www.tigerlily foundation.org. They can find us on Twitter at Tigerlily Cares and on Instagram at Tigerlily Foundation. And I can be found everywhere as Maimah. So on TikTok or on Twitter is Maimah. Well, actually Maimah, yeah. And then, or Maimah Karmo rather. So Twitter, Maimah Karmo, Instagram, Maimah Karmo, TikTok, which I love, Maimah Karmo, and Facebook, Maimah Karmo. And there you have it.
Perfect. And we'll have everything Tigerlily and Maimah Karmo in the show notes at thedailyhelping.com. Maimah, thank you again. You're right. Time flew by, but I was so grateful we got to spend it together today. Thanks so much for coming on The Daily Helping.
Thanks for having me. I had a great time, and just thanks for the platform and thanks for all you do.
Thank you very much. And I want to also thank each and every one of you who took time out of your day to listen to this conversation. If you like what you heard, if you feel inspired, go give us a follow on Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review, because that is what helps other people find the show. But most importantly, go out there today, do something nice for somebody else, even if you don't know who they are, and post it in your social media feeds using the hashtag #MyDailyHelping, because the happiest people are those that help others.